Welcome to the stream. Just going over some interesting info tonight. I am super excited to share with you all. How are you all doing tonight? I hope that you are well. I am Dave Knapp, man of the Mounjaro. That is why I'm here. You are on the pen. That's why you're here. And we're all here to have a little fun. How is everyone tonight? Put it in the chat and let me know how you are doing, because I know we've got some new followers recently, especially over on TikTok, where I can go live now, although I can't send my streams over there quite yet. I got to figure out how that works out, but I'm really excited. So put it in the chat if you're here. I see that there are a good handful of you here, and I would love to hear from you, especially if you are new to the stream. Joe, who's down 210 pounds. Joe, am I seeing that right? Doth my eyes deceive me? That can't be right. 210 pounds. You have to be kidding me. Congratulations, Joe. It is a life-changing medicine. Mounjaro, GLP-1s. They are changing the game, and we are documenting a lot of it here. And I am so excited to hear from people like Joe, who is down a whopping 210 pounds. That's crazy. BJ, hello. Carla, welcome to the stream. She just got back from Amarillo. Good to see you too. I am streaming live tonight from Reno, near Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and it's just so good to be here. So good to be with you all. Miss Tapman, welcome to the stream. Vicky, Jeannie, welcome to the stream. Welcome, special welcome to the members of the channel. Jeannie, Miss Tapman. I see Carla. Those are the current members of our channel. Delisa. I always butcher that, and I feel so terrible. I can never remember, and I always ask you to spell it phonetically for me. But yeah, so this has been a really big week. I've dropped some videos on the channel, and we have talked a little bit about some really interesting information that has come out of the American Diabetes Association conference. I believe it's the 83rd annual. And there's a lot of information that some of these pharmaceutical companies have been holding back from their clinical trials and waiting to share at this big conference. So this would be a fun one to maybe go to on the pen live, like in the flesh. Maybe that can be a long-term vision of mine for the channel, that I would be there live, corresponding there. I think Michelle and I had talked about this at one point. So that would be a really, really cool thing to do. So yeah, I dropped a video earlier this week on orforglipron, right? That's the new non-peptide small molecule GLP-1 receptor agonist from Eli Lilly. It's a pill, and it's got weight loss results that are rivaling that of the injectables. And so you're going to want to go back and check out the video that I did on orforglipron, because there was some fun information there. What I'm really waiting for is tomorrow, and perhaps we'll do another live. I'm not sure how this is all going to shake out with my work schedule and everything. And we've got a really special interview that I have to work in one of these next couple of nights with a really super, super fun guest. If you're over on TikTok, we will be having an interview with Bourbon RX. And so if you're on TikTok and you are following Mounjaro channels, Bourbon RX is not one to miss. I think he's got about 75,000 followers over there. So really, really good information. And so, yeah, I'm going to be doing an interview with him. But tomorrow, retatrutide. That's the big topic. Vanessa, you got ahead of me there, didn't you? She's excited. She's as excited as I am about that. But retatrutide, we are going to get some really awesome updates on clinical trial results from the triple agonist, the 3G, the triple G, the tricretin, whatever you want to call it. We're going to get some information, and it's been a while since we've had information on retatrutide, and so I am super excited to share that with you. But tonight, I do have some information to share with you on Rybelsus, because we talked about on it was one of my work trip streams that I did like this from a hotel room where, sorry, I keep kicking the table. Don't mean to give everybody motion sickness. But the oral version of Rybelsus. So Rybelsus comes in a 3 milligram tablet, a 7 milligram tablet, or a 14 milligram tablet. And they're currently testing 25 milligram and 50 milligram. And they dropped information about that today. And so I'm going to share some of that with you. That was one of the graphics that was up when we went live here. Going to check back in with the stream here. Miss T said her doctor put her on the 1.7 Wegovy, and you'll see how that works. Good. So you move down. That's like splitting the dose in half. Miss T, please let us know how that goes for you. Let us know in the chat when you're going to take your first dose, and then let us know on the next stream how it's treating you. Okay. Thank you for updating us on that. Vanessa said Lily should hire me to come up with a name for Retatatride. I think we should just call it Retahutride. I think we should stick with that. I think that's fun. But yeah, that would be fun. I would love to work for Eli Lilly and name all these Utides. That would be a dream job. Man, I'm a big fanboy of GLP-1 medications. If you haven't figured that out by now, it started with Mounjaro, which obviously is the medication that I'm on. And, you know, I started Mounjaro back in November of last year to help control my type 2 diabetes, but also to help me lose weight, and just started documenting it, started putting everything I was learning about it up on these YouTube videos. And here we are like 8 months later, and it's a whole deal. It's a whole deal. It's branded. I got a website. It's a whole deal, folks. And you all are the best part of it. You're why I'm doing it. You're why I've continued to do it. So thank you for being encouragers of this channel. Vicky, new member. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so good to have new members. I appreciate you joining the channel. That is so awesome. Thank you for each and every one of you who become members of this channel, because you're supporting all this. Like, I'm streaming right now from a software that costs money. I'm streaming from a tablet because I'm on the road with a cellular plan that costs money. I mean, not a sob story, but that's helps recoup that for me. And so I'm not investing much more than just my time, which is a pretty big investment as well. So thank you all for becoming members of the channel and giving back in that way. Miss T said I should work for Lily. She gets all her knowledge from me. Vanessa said my friends work with Optum. UHC confirmed in August they will audit records for people getting GLP-1s. Yep. We mentioned that on the stream, I think last week. We got to push back. I mean, I don't know how we can. These companies are so big and so powerful, but it's such an overreach. Not very fair, if you ask me. Jeannie said, Dave, you probably come up with a great jingle, at least for Retatatride. Retatatride. It's to fill in the words. That's all. This sounds like an old-timey cereal commercial from the 40s. Carla said, I changed my YouTube name, so hopefully it's easier for you to know who I am. Yep. It was Crochet CJ, right? Now Carla is Crafty. I like it. Miss T said, congratulations, Vicky. And Rhonda joined the stream. So welcome to the stream, Rhonda. Thank you again, Vicky, for becoming a member of the channel. It's good to have you here. So, yeah. Does anybody want to hear about Rybelsus, 25 and 50 milligram? Anybody want to hear how that shook out? Because that is the news that I'm bringing you tonight for anybody who's interested in hearing. Emmy said, what are they auditing? I'm never going to say someone has diabetes that doesn't, but there is nothing illegal about off-label use and cash pay. Yeah, they are going to be auditing to ensure that there's a type 2 diabetes diagnosis there, I believe, and they're looking for specific HbA1c numbers. This is just what I've read in my cursory search here. Sue, welcome to the stream, buddy. Good to have you here. He ate a double-decker cheeseburger from Hardee's and just woke up from a meat coma. Sue, sometimes Sundays do be like that. They just do. I had a burrito. So we're setting up for a trade show, and in this hotel that I'm at, they had this little Mexican place, and so I stopped by and got a burrito. I hadn't eaten all day. I was ready to eat my arm. Well, because I'm a couple days late on my shot, I was waiting to take it on a live stream. Actually, have it with me. Traveled with my Mounjaro. I've got the 2.5 and the 5. By the way, here's a little travel hack for you. Biggest super chat of the night gets to pick where I inject these. So far, it's Vicky, who became a member. But a little life hack. So I have traveled with Mounjaro more than once. This is a longer trip. It's a week long. When I went through security, I thought, these medications are not supposed to be exposed to light. And there's gnarly radiation light that happens when they run these through the x-ray. So I just asked them to hand check them. That way they didn't have to go through. I felt better about that. And then this is the cool part of the story. I'll catch up with the chat, I promise. So this is the coolest part of the story is that the guy got up that was kind of running everything through, and he comes over and he looks at me and goes, "How much weight have you lost?" I was like, well, I'm down about 40 pounds. He's like, "I'm on Mounjaro too, 7.5. So I told him about the channel. So if a guy from the TSA at Phoenix Sky Harbor, if you are in the stream, welcome to the stream. Let's go back up here, check in with the chat. Emmy says, Vanessa said, is anyone getting Ozempic or Mounjaro and they don't have diabetes? And there definitely are some. It's happening. I'm hearing about it more and more. BJ said, all about out of cell range. Catch everyone later. See you, BJ. Thanks for joining, buddy. Good to have you here. For any amount of time we can have you. Vanessa said insurances don't want to pay. Of course they don't. These are super, super expensive. Can you imagine just for a second, though, these businesses, these insurance companies, and I'm no apologist for insurance companies, but all of a sudden they've got, a mass amount of their people taking these GLP-1s that are super expensive. Like, it's probably not super sustainable to not check up on making sure that people have the right diagnosis. But to Emmy's point, there's certainly nothing wrong about prescribing off-label and cash paying. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing punishable. So catching up with the chat. Vanessa said, do one in each side of the stomach. Yeah, so I'm going to let the chat go a little bit here. I tell you what, if you have a question for me, I'm going to need it to be a super chat. It's a little bit of groveling, but it's also like, it's the only way that I can see a question that needs to get answered. So super chat, however much, I'll answer your question for you. But we're going to get into the news that we started talking about tonight, and that is Rybelsus 25 milligram and 50 milligram. There's some really exciting stuff. So we talked about orforglipron the other day from Eli Lilly. And I think I did mention in that video, I've definitely mentioned it in other videos of mine, that Rybelsus was going to be the next thing to kind of come down the pike at their 25 and 50 milligrams. So let's just go through the slides from the presentation today. So there's two different studies going on. There's this Oasis trial, and then there's the Pioneer Plus trial. The Oasis is a study for obese and overweight patients, non-diabetic, right? So they tested the 50 milligrams for 68 weeks, and the overall safety profile was consistent with the safety profile of the injectable semaglutides. Oral semaglutide 50 milligrams may represent an effective option for the treatment of obesity, particularly in patients who prefer oral administration. So let's get into why that is. And here it is, folks. So there's kind of two different readouts here. And, I'm not a doctor. I haven't been trained in how to read these things. My cursory understanding, and maybe Emmy can chime in, or somebody who's more familiar with these. But I think on the left-hand side where it says treatment policy estimate, that's like more of an estimation of how the weight loss will play out in the real world when you put in, factors about the dosing schedule that doctors will use and the diets that they'll prescribe along with the medications. You can't really blanket say it's going to be just like the study. So they're guesstimating that 15% body weight loss over a 68-week period. In the gray there, you can see that was the placebo. But you basically got 68 weeks at 50 milligrams, and people lost, or people will be estimated to lose about 15% of their body weight. The actual number was closer to 17.5% of their body weight that people lost on this oral semaglutide, which is crazy. That is a crazy amount of weight to lose on an oral GLP-1, which previous to now was, not possible. So that is really good. It's going to rival orforglipron that we talked about the other day. Sue, thanks for the super chat. Said, any word on the Mounjaro shortages? Wait till after your Rybelsus news. We'll hit that after a bit. You may have to remind me though, Sue. Thanks for the super chat, man. So kind of back to the banners that I was showing there. So that's a huge reduction in weight, folks. That's, right up there with the injectable GLP-1 medications. So be looking for that. I think, just to add my own 10 cents here, what I think Lilly has on Rybelsus with orforglipron is that Rybelsus is kind of a gremlin medication in that you got to do everything at the right time under the right protocol, or you get a gremlin. There's a lot of rules about when you can take Rybelsus, how to take it, what to take it with, when you can eat. My understanding about orforglipron is there isn't any of that. And so I think that's something that Lilly is really going to tout, is that you just don't have to worry about as much of that gremlin stuff, if that makes sense. Back to some of the other slides. This one is just a graph that kind of showed over the course of that 68 weeks what that weight loss looked like. Now, keep in mind, the weight loss with Mounjaro, tirzepatide, I believe that was over 72 weeks, so you had another month on it. But people lost up to 22% of their body weight. So here you see people up to 17% with an oral. That's pretty darn good, folks. That is pretty darn good. So kudos to Novo Nordisk in accomplishing this with Rybelsus. I think this is a big deal for people. I think there's a lot of people who do not like to take a shot. And so this is a great option. I think there's also, myself included, there might be something to getting a dose of the medication daily, a dose of a GLP-1 daily. And so that will be an option, obviously, with the oral. So like I said, there were more studies that happened, or another study, the Pioneer Plus. Now this is studying 14 milligrams, 25 milligrams, and 50 milligrams. Like I said, the current highest dose of Rybelsus is 14 milligrams. So this is testing it on people with obesity and type 2 diabetes. Obesity or overweight and type 2 diabetes. Now, this is really interesting because this goes right along with the trial that was released for tirzepatide in the last month or so. But you can see, so you have the light shade of blue, and then the medium shade of blue, and then the navy blue. That's going to be your 14 milligram, your 25 milligram, and your 50 milligram respectively. And you can see that on the 50, after 52 weeks, so this was a little bit shorter of a trial than the one for obesity, but people lost 9% of their body weight that were diabetic. So you can see that obviously the non-diabetic weight loss outpaces the diabetic weight loss. Once again, I put out a short video today about tirzepatide and some of the other weight loss medications that are out there, and how it was just a graph that showed how much slower type 2 diabetics lose. And I would take it one further, because I'm a doctor and I don't have to be that accurate or precise and scientific. But my hypothesis is that the same is going to go for people who are super insulin resistant. Now, it's not common practice for doctors to give people tests of insulin, but in my opinion, it should be, because it's super relevant, right? I think it's relevant because just because your HbA1c is good doesn't mean that your body isn't cranking out gobs of insulin to make it so. And folks, insulin, when there's gobs of insulin in your blood, it's very hard to lose weight because by nature, insulin is packing things into your body. That's what it does. And so having high levels of the hormone insulin make it very challenging to lose weight. And you don't know if you have high insulin. Just because you have good A1C doesn't mean that you might not be insulin resistant. And so I think there's much more to be learned, obviously, as it relates to insulin levels and weight loss. And I'll be interested to see how that all shakes out. But if you're a slower loser, I would recommend maybe having your insulin levels checked if you're not diabetic. So back to what else I have for slides here. Yeah, this just kind of shows the change in A1C over time. So the pretty significant change in A1C. You can see that the A1C, this is a better graph to look at it. The baseline, of 9% was kind of the average, and people reduced it over that 52 weeks by 2.2%. So got it from 9 to under 7, which is awesome glucose control for a diabetic. So one really interesting thing that I will add here too is that, and I pulled these from Twitter, just some people who were attending on Twitter, some doctors that had posted this stuff. So I was not there. I'm just kind of getting this information secondhand. I wish I could have been there. But what you see here kind of highlighted in red is benign and malignant neoplasms. And so there is a notable increase on the 50 milligrams of oral semaglutide. I'm not a doctor. I can't, make super great sense of that, but I would continue to just tell people, like, objectively, there's not zero risk in using a GLP-1. The risk is not zero. The risk is not zero with any medication. But I would also couple that with what we know to be true about diabetes and obesity. And what we know to be true about obesity is that it leads to higher instances of cancer. It leads to higher instances of cardiovascular death. And, heart attacks are the leading killer in our country. And obesity is the greatest, arguably, contributing factor to that. So the risks associated with being obese are well documented. These studies that are coming out, there's just little blips of information that, say, like, hey, there's potential that the risk factor is not zero. Okay, that's what I'll say. So as with everything that I say on this channel, talk to your doctor. You got to weigh these options out with your doctor, with your physician who is part of your care team, and work together with them to make decisions about how to move forward. It will be interesting to see, like, why stop at 50 milligrams of Rybelsus? Why not 100? Do you see an increase once you hit 100? Do you see an increase in those tumors or, cancer rates? I don't know. And again, it seemed like they had lumped benign and malignant neoplasms there, and then below malignant neoplasms. And it looks like those are very similar numbers for the actual cancerous versus placebo. So again, the increase seems to be, based upon this data, the increase seems to be in the non-malignant neoplasms, but an increase in them nonetheless. So what to make of that, I don't know, but I do think it's probably notable. So I'm going to catch up with the chat a little bit. Spinster Sister, thanks for being a member. Randy's, thanks for being a member, and thanks for being here on the stream. I see a couple people who have joined the stream, Clarissa and Oscalso. Thank you for joining. Julie, you are a new member, and I thank you for being a member. Appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to, because I said if you got a question for me specifically, put it in the form of a super chat. That way I can see it, because I'm just one guy and I can't keep up with all this chat. You should see Janine, TJ, who has a channel over here on YouTube. And actually she's on the Plus Sides podcast, and they got Rosie O'Donnell this week. You want to check that out. But man, she's on TikTok and she's like answering question. I'm like, and she streams for like 2 hours just answering people questions. I can't keep up with all that. But if you put it in the form of a super chat, I'll be sure to see it and I'll be sure to answer it. So I'm going to go back and answer Sue's question. So Sue the dude, if you are a member of the channel, put Sue's emoji in the chat. But he said, any word on the Mounjaro shortages? So there's no official new news on the Mounjaro shortages. So the shortage with the FDA that was reported to the FDA said through the end of July. And I think that we can all probably put the pieces of the puzzle together and say, this is, probably the impetus behind this was the coupon expiring in June and lots of people going, hey, we're going to get a 3-month supply. I'm going to get a 3-month supply of this in June so that I can, have 3 more months on the moon. And I'm sure, most of those people are in the upper doses because they're on the OG card, which was all the way back in November of last year. So they're probably likely on the 10, the 12.5, and the 15. That's why I think you're seeing the shortages of that. But once that cools down, I think we're going to have a few months where I think it'll be back to kind of homeostasis with where, some people are still going to struggle to find specific doses somewhere, but I think it'll be normal for a while. But then we're going to hit the end of the year. And at the end of the year, we'll have the weight loss indication. And once the weight loss indication comes online, that will have its own card. People who have obesity coverage will be able to get back on Mounjaro. And I think you're going to, even though they're supposedly going to have the output of the medication doubled by the end of the year, or at least their manufacturing capacity doubled by the end of the year, A, that has to actually happen. And B, I don't know that they can really predict, what those numbers will be for the people who are starting Mounjaro for weight loss. So I think after July, get us to December, I think it's going to get a little nutso in Q1 of 2024 would be my estimation. Sue expects a glut of MJ in a month. I don't know about a glut. Maybe. It'll certainly, I think it'll certainly go back to being not very difficult to find. Julie, thank you. Julie said, I've learned so much from your channel. Thank you for all your hard work and breaking news. Yeah. And you just became a member this past week. So thank you for becoming a member, because that supports my work. I mean, like, this is a Sunday. I traveled all day yesterday. I got stuck in Phoenix. Didn't get to the hotel till late. Woke up early to catch a flight up to Reno today. Set up a trade show booth. All the while, I'm keeping track of what's going on the socials so I can put together this live stream. Like, this is a job. This is a part-time job. So to have somebody like you recognize that, Julie, is so nice and kind. And so thank you for doing that. Carla with the super chat. Thank you so much, Carla. I appreciate that. Is the price of Mounjaro going to continue to be $25 for those with diabetes, or is it going to a copay of a larger amount? I'm not diabetic, so I'm just out of luck. That has been the word on the street, is that those terms are going to change on that. I assume you're talking about the OG card that goes till December. The word on the street and every indication has been, when Lilly opens their mouth, is that is going to change. I haven't seen anything about it changing yet. I know, like, for me, I'm diabetic, and because Mounjaro is covered, I get it for $25 anyway. So I haven't kept up on the coupon stuff as much lately because it's becoming less relevant as people have to get off of it, and as the people who are left on it are diabetic and most have coverage. I will say that my aunt texted me before I headed out of town, and she's been on Mounjaro for a couple of months now, and she has Medicare and obviously supplemental prescription coverage, and she was getting it for $25 She was getting it for $40 a month. She went to fill it the other day and it was $300. So we got to look into that. That's unfortunate for her. I had a series of questions that I said she needed to ask her pharmacy, and so we'll see what happens. But yeah, Carla, I'm curious. Like you said, you're not diabetic, so you're just out of luck. But remind me what you are doing. Are you taking a compound, or are you taking Wegovy? Let me know in the comments. The highest dose shortage is very frustrating. I agree, Emmy. Especially because like those people are like deep into the treatment. So what do? Well, like me, 7.5. I got a 2.5 and a 5. I don't feel great about that being the option because now I'm taking a low dose, but I'm diabetic and I need that glucose control. And I honestly, the next appointment that I have with my doctor, I'm going to go up because I just need more glucose control than 7.5 gives me. 15 gave me the best glucose control, and so I'd love to be back there. So we'll see what happens. Clarissa said, a friend of mine is looking for a good compound pharmacy. Any suggestions? Your friend needs to talk to your doctor because you have to have a script. You have to have a prescription for compound medications, and her doctor should know of a good, reputable compound pharmacy. If not, the one that I hear over and over and over and over is South Lake in Florida. I haven't used it. I believe there's also one in Texas and Tennessee, and I'm sure that people in the chat are aware of what those are better than I am. But yeah, the South Lake Pharmacy in Florida was a really reputable one, and that comes from several prescribers, several caregivers, nurse practitioners that follow the channel. Yeah, that's awesome, Vanessa. She said that she was able to fill the 5 and the 7.5. Good for you, Clarissa. See, yeah, everybody's stocking up on Mounjaro. Seems like a lot of people are sitting on a stockpile. Stonegate is the one for Texas. Thank you, Vanessa. South Lake, like something that you go boating on or fish on. Lake. Jeannie says, I get my next script filled in a couple of weeks and did fortunately get a prior authorization. That's happening a lot. Been on 5 and almost want to move to 7.5, but trying to keep under the radar so they don't take back that PA. If the prior authorization happens again, presumably you're diabetic if you got through it the first time. Clarissa's diabetic. Carla said, I'm on 15 milligram for 1 month, and then my doctor is switching me to Ozempic since my insurance does cover that. Doctor's office is starting to use the compounds. Interesting, Carla. And where are they starting you at and the dosage? That's been a big topic of conversation here on the channel. A lot of people ask me, I was on Mounjaro X dose. Where do I start on Ozempic? And I really say you maybe don't need to start on the lowest dose, but don't go much higher than the next dose up. And the reason that I say that is from everything that I'm reading, the GLP-1 receptor agonist is actually stronger with semaglutide. And so it's just a different medication. The thing with Mounjaro is it has the GIP, right? And the GIP in tirzepatide is actually stronger than the GLP-1, if that makes sense. So you get more of the GIP with the tirzepatide than you do the GLP-1. And so you're getting more of the GLP-1 with the Ozempic, and your body's just going to respond differently. So there's no apples to apples dose exchange. Like Miss Tapman in the stream earlier, she switched from Mounjaro 15 milligram, and her doctor switched her to the highest level of Wegovy, which is 2.4, and she's been sick. And so thankfully she's pulling back to the 1.7, which is half that dose, and I'm hoping that she does well with that. But it's just not an apples to apples. Your body's probably going to respond differently to the semaglutide than it did to the tirzepatide. Spencer's going to have their doctor re-prescribe me for 3 months of every level from now on. Yeah, that's a great idea. Imagine how hard it will be in December. I don't want to imagine that. Jeannie, you're not type 2, so how'd you get past that prior authorization? I'm confused about that. They're monitoring the GLP-1s. Yeah, they definitely are. Join Mochi owes me my meds or money back. I don't pimp any of these big telehealth conglomerates because I don't know anything about them. I know like it's just a network of doctors, nurse practitioners, things like that. So I just don't know enough about them to say which ones are good and which ones aren't. I tend to like, individual nurse practitioners that offer telehealth versus the big conglomerates, just because I feel like it's easier to have a relationship with them. And this is something that came up at the conference this year. The American Diabetic Association was talking about how telehealth is great because it increases access for people. Not so great because sometimes it can be treated like the old school pill farms, just for GLP-1s, where people aren't getting appropriately monitored for their conditions. And I think that's where it gets dangerous. It's like you don't want to just send somebody off on a GLP-1 to lose 15 pounds and not run lab work or see how their kidneys are functioning and see, check the thyroid history in the family and all that. Like I'm not saying that these big telehealth companies don't have doctors that do those things. I'm just saying, like, find one that definitely does, right? Carla said he will tell me at my next appointment was on Oz 1 milligram prior to starting Mounjaro, so I think we will start with that most likely. Awesome. That makes sense to me. PA is for Mounjaro overall, not a certain dose, but don't trust it. Have lost 55 pounds on 5 milligrams trying to make that work. And I agree. Like if you're getting it right now and you're not diabetic, don't go up in dosage, especially now. Like you're gonna get hit with a PA, and it probably like with the audits, it's probably you're probably not gonna make it through again. So you get a 3, and I think you don't probably want to get a 3-month fill either. You don't want to do anything that's gonna flag your account, get you in trouble. Not in trouble, but you know what I mean. Get you off Mounjaro. Yeah, I'm not sure who Emmy's responding to there. She said, I'm running these PAs myself in the evening. I'm sorry you're not believed, but it's absolutely what I see. I'm not sure who you're responding to, but I'd like to know. Vanessa said tirzepatide, from my experience, is a lot stronger than semaglutide. I think generally that's the consensus. I mean, certainly the weight loss Mounjaro is a stronger medication, but the GLP-1 concentration in semaglutide, I think, is more concentrated than it is with tirzepatide, because you have the dual acting mechanism of tirzepatide, which is what makes it stronger, but not on the GLP-1 side. And that's where I say individual people's biology based upon what they need more of is going to probably respond differently to Ozempic than Mounjaro. That would be my hypothesis anyway. You were responding to Vanessa. We're seeing new PAs with every dose change. That's happened with me too, guys. Sorry, I never mean to say guys and gals, everybody. I've gotten PAs too. And it's what seems ridiculous to me is it's like you got the PA for 5 and you know that I'm diabetic. Why do you need it for the 10? I'm still diabetic. And I don't know if it's because they're trying to catch my medical record with an HbA1c that shows lower than diabetic now that I've been on Mounjaro, so they can kick me off it. I wouldn't put it past them. But it's like once they do it one time, they should know that you're diabetic, and I'm not sure why the prior authorization would be necessary other than to just bog people's medications down in paperwork so they don't have to fill as many scripts. I don't know. Emmy said that. Yeah. And I've seen it with my wife's. My wife takes or was taking Enbrel for like 20 years for her arthritis, basically since it came around, and it's a biologic medication. Every year for the last 3 or 4 years, the insurance company has fought us with a prior authorization, and then they deny it, and then we go through arbitration with them, and that whole process takes 10 months. So they ultimately approve it, but they only have to pay for it for 2 months now because they just drug us through the arbitration. So finally, we are switching her to Humira because there's step therapy required. But it's like she's been on this medication for 20 years and it works. Why all of a sudden do we have to try Humira? That's ridiculous. Carla said, "No worries, Dave. We ladies are cool with being one of the guys." I trained myself to not say it because when I was a waiter at Olive Garden back in the day, I'd go up to a table of ladies and I'd be like, "How you doing, guys?" And then I'd be like, "There's not a single guy at that table." So I kind of trained myself not to do it. So it's like still wired in my brain from back then. Vanessa's replying to Sue saying the plan for step, you have to try and fail metformin and an oral type 2 medication before they'll approve injectables. Yeah, some insurance companies do require that type of step therapy. Mine does, and that's why I was on metformin. So thankfully, I never had to worry about that. The prior auth require a dose. Yes. Something breaks Emmy's heart. I'm not sure which thing I said does, but sorry, Emmy. Julie says every time I get another dose increase or a new prescription of the same milligram, I have to get a prior authorization. That's what they're doing. Oh, Emmy, you're saying that about my wife's medication. That's what you're saying that about. Yeah. Breaks my heart too. I mean, and it's part of the reason when we were going through all this was actually when I started Mounjaro, and I mentioned it in a couple of the videos early on. It was like part of the reason that I was would kind of get loud about the insurance companies was because I was right in the middle of it. So when I hear about people getting their access restricted to a medication that's working for them, I get furious because we've been there, and it's like, do our bodies need this to function properly? How is it even legal for an insurance company to get in between that? So Sue said, Emmy, it breaks her heart that I call women guys. Sue said he called his insurance and they won't even consider step therapy unless you're type 2. Yeah, because that's the indication for the medication. That once it's approved for obesity, Sue, they still might have step therapy required. It obviously wouldn't be for metformin. That's a diabetic drug, but it might be for phentermine or something that's approved. I don't know. Maybe phentermine isn't. I think it is. But some other weight loss medication, they'll probably make you try and fail on that first. But they're not going to have you do step therapy because you're not diabetic. Hey, Mel's here. Welcome to the stream, Mel. It's good to see you here. Happy Sunday night to you. We have been talking about all things GLP-1s tonight. We've been talking about Rybelsus or Forglipron. We've been talking about PAs. Most recently, we're just talking about frustrations with not being able to get medication. The tide is changing, folks. I know that it's hard to see right now, but especially reading all that I've read over the last couple of days about the medications that are coming out, there's going to be, so Sue, earlier when you said there's going to be a glut of Mounjaro on the market in a month, in 2 years, 3 years, that kind of window, there's going to be a glut of GLP-1 medications on the market that are just as good as Mounjaro. I know that's like super hard to imagine, but it's reality. There's just some really, and I did a video earlier, like last week, about some of them that are in the pipeline, but that's not even probably the half of them that are in the pipeline. And I mean, hearing about some of them, Boehringer Ingelheim has a really cool twin creatine dual agonist. It's GLP-1 and glucagon. We've got retatrutide that we'll talk about tomorrow. We've got AstraZeneca has one. Viking Therapeutics has one. Pfizer has a small molecule oral. There's just a whole bunch of them. So Deb said, did I get her message on Stride Kick? I have not been paying attention to Stride Kick, so no, I haven't. I've been just too busy to keep up with it. I will make sure that I get in there and check it out, though, Deb. Yeah, Mel said Express Scripts stopped her 10 milligram fill because of the shortage, but she's got enough to get through. I think she's got to get through the end of the month, right? Well, the end of July anyway. Hopefully you'll be able to find it. Robin, welcome to the stream. She said, so the med companies wonder why people go to the compounding pharmacies. I don't think they really wonder that at all. I think they know exactly why they do. I think it bothers them, but I think they also understand the reality that many, many people are on these medications, and when the insurance rug gets pulled out from under them, they're going to find something. They're going to find something they can't afford, and they have the right to. So, yeah, Sue's expecting a lot of people to go off Mounjaro in July. Yeah, that will happen. It will happen, but they got to catch the supply up, right? So that's probably a month to 2 months before we can just say every dose is available everywhere, right? And then once that happens, like this year, we're already to like the fall, and we've got the obesity indication staring us in the face. So that is my only point is I think you're right. There will be a period of time where there will be a lot of it, and then I think there will be another period of time where there's not enough of it. I just think that it's going to be that way. I could be wrong. Mel's going to try to fill again in mid-July, and Vanessa said Novo rep is bragging about Wegovy, but it's been shortages for 2 years. Yeah, I mean, that's the reality, is that it's been in shortage for a long, long time. It's pretty hard to deny. Novo needs to ramp up their supply and get on more formularies. Yeah, I think that's going to be a challenge for Eli Lilly too. And maybe, Sue, to your point, maybe Lilly won't be very efficient at getting Mounjaro onto formularies. That's a big process too. And they can't really start that process right away until they get the approval. I got to close this window here, folks. Yeah, Deb said there's such a shortage for Wegovy that it's still never been available in Canada. That is correct. I see a Taylor Swift reference. There's always a time for a Taylor Swift reference. Vanessa, that's a very, very valid point that we've talked about on this channel. And that is that's probably these shortages are probably a huge reason why Lilly is looking at not rebranding Mounjaro for weight loss. There's too many manufacturing and marketing efficiencies to do that, to not do that. And that's going to be their challenge. And they have way more pressure on them to meet their financial obligations to their investors, I believe, right now, just because of the way that Lilly is overbought. Sue said, say hello to everyone on that bus outside your window. That is a hotel, that thing. That is a hotel. Because this is actually, Mel said something good that I missed. Most of us not eligible to trials due to our extended use of the product. Yeah, I I applied for one not too long ago, and I got that message like, oops, as soon as it asked me if I was on a GLP-1, I was like, I'm screwed. Robin said that she was told 1.7 and 2.4 Wegovy are on back order. Yeah, and that's like a long-term sustained thing. I want to just show you guys something real quick. This is the view from my hotel room. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, not bad for a work trip, I'm going to say. Randy's said that 10 is her sweet spot. And yeah, that's, if Mel wasn't here, I would be like, Mel too. Absolutely. It was still crazy to me, Mel, how much you struggled just going to the 12.5. That was a lot. Well, we have been streaming now for 51 minutes. This has been fun. I really think that we will probably do this again tomorrow night, because there's going to be too much news about Retatride to not do this. So I will be looking forward to that. So keep your eyes out for a stream tomorrow night as well. I'm not sure what time, because I'm not sure when I'll be free. So sorry about my channel is a little inconsistent. If I did this full time, it would be much more consistent, but that's just not reality. So Vanessa said Novo is banking on CagriSema competing with Mounjaro, but Retatride will come out before CagriSema comes out. Yeah, and CagriSema, is that also a triple G? I think it is. Vanessa's dancing with anticipation. Retta, who tried? Party tomorrow. Absolutely. I'm super excited to share that. So I think the two biggest super chats of the night were Sue and Carla. So Sue and Carla can tell me where these things are going, and we'll do a injection. Carglintide and semaglutide. Oh, really, Vanessa? CagriSema. That makes sense. Kind of mad that there's not an utide in it. Interesting. So is this carglintide? That's another peptide, polypeptide. So a mixing of peptides. That's very interesting. I'll have to read more about that, because I have heard about it. But is it a dual acting, a triple acting, or just? I would imagine it's not just a single acting like semaglutide, because then it would just put this right in competition with semaglutide, which they don't want to do. They're putting way too much money into semaglutide right now for CagriSema to only be a single acting. Sue chooses Albuquerque. All right, right side of my abdomen, that's going to be where the 5 milligram goes tonight. Cheers. Vanessa's going to share the link. Thank you. I got some work to do in the description of this video, so I'll go back at some point and add some of this stuff. Left side of the belly. Left side, right side. All right. Dunzo, Washington. That's what I always say to my kids. Dunzo, Washington. Like Denzel Washington. I talk a lot of nonsense to my children, and I hope that it's not doing long-term damage. One of my favorite things to say when I can't come up with a word I'm looking for is type a deal. Like if I can't remember the name of my phone, I'm going to be like, pick me up that type of deal. And now my children are doing it. So I don't know. I need to fix myself. All right. 55 minutes. Thank you. Hey, now Denzel is one fine looking brother. Hey, I'm not going to argue with that. He's a good looking dude. Yeah, no, not slamming Denzel at all. Just like to say Denzel Washington. Rhonda said, thank you for tonight, David. Wish me luck on my first 5 milligram shot. You're good. You got this. You got this, Rhonda. Thanks for joining us tonight. Mel's Nana used to say, my whatchamacallit. You got Kate Blanchett to say whatever you want to. Awesome. Hey, thank you all for joining the stream tonight. So great to be with you all on this Sunday edition from Reno. I'm going to let you go, but this isn't for long. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then,